This is Paul. Yeah. I'm just reading you in the law. Yeah. There's what's called entrapment, the act of an officer of the government in inducing a person to commit a crime he had not contemplated, so that the person may be prosecuted for the offense. Then there's what's called equal protection of the laws, a phrase in the 14th Amendment in the Constitution of the United States that requires every state to extend to all persons within its jurisdiction equal treatment and protections under the laws of that state. This guarantee applies both to privileges conferred and liabilities imposed. Unequal treatment is unconstitutional. Now, let me explain how entrapment works, okay? Let's say that I inform law enforcement that the protection order, RI.PDF, violates my constitutional right to due process. They laugh it off like, well, you'll have to motion the court. And I'm like, no, you violated my constitutional right to due process. You're going to have to remove it. Well, instead of doing that, they made up a story that said I was in Sequim, Washington on December 31st and they arrested me. Oh, because I wasn't in that city, and I proved I wasn't. Well, they compelled me to continue to go to court, and they wanted a mental health evaluation without ordering a mental health evaluation. Then I emailed my public defender and said, well, I actually have blood nausea. I need to reschedule this because the court hearing wasn't until September 27th. Now, I don't just email one person. I emailed those in local law enforcement and the Seattle FBI. And I informed them that I was available a couple weeks later on these certain dates and that I'm happy to take the mental health evaluation, even though I know there's no jurisdiction for their arrest, because the protection order wasn't issued according to the requirements of the law. Now, instead of informing me of the actual notice to have to appear in court, they decided that they were not going to give me the summons, notice, and subpoena. They instead were just going to laugh it off and think about, well, the guy doesn't show up, we're going to issue a bench warrant for his arrest. A bench warrant that they issued on the 7th of September of 2016. Yes! Well, when I email law enforcement every day, 1,000 to 1,500 emails, and all they have to do is respond, they could have said, Paul, why don't you walk over to the police department and get a warrant for your arrest? And then I would have told the police chief, well, actually, I did respond to the judge's request. I requested from the state of Washington notice to have to appear in court, because that's what the law requires. Well, instead of just doing what the law requires, they decided to wait until I was a Sequim on the 24th of September. Oh! I'm sitting there at the Safeway, and I'm entrapped because I had communicated that the law requires that I be given a court order to have to appear in court. And I had responded that I was not trying to avoid going to court, but I would not go to court just because the public defender's office sent me an email that requested my presence in Judge Porter's courtroom. Now, when you entrap American citizens, you definitely violate the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. Now, for every sheriff in every jurisdiction that does have to enforce this protection order, even though it's a crime to issue it when it violates the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, they don't understand the lawsuit. Now, when I do what the law requires, when I email the public defenders and the sheriff's department and the police department and those that have the legal obligation for the enforcement of the laws of the United States, and they decide they're not going to do what the law says, and then they entrap me when it was not necessary, all they needed to do was give me notice that I had to appear in court, but instead they decided to entrap me. Then they decided to arrest me on September 24th of 2016. Then they decided to hold me in jail for 27 days, and then they decided that I had a mental problem for wanting my rights enforced. Now, America's oaths of office need to understand that when they sign that document, when they get elected to office, that they support and defend the Constitution of the United States without any mental reservation, without any purpose of evasion, having no other allegiance to any other principle or constitution of the world. That I, as that American citizen, will be happy to explain in these videos and any future video that you might need what the lawsuit is!